All right, we're back for another Friday financial wrap up with Mr. Michael Zuber. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing well, man. I actually got up early this morning, went for an hour run, actually more high intensity walk, run, or actually walk sprints. Felt good doing that before the sun came up. So yeah, I'm doing good. Trying to lose some weight since that trip.
Yeah, well, dude, you look good. I'm sure you're feeling good. This is for March the 28th, 2025. Can you believe it's the last week of the first quarter? Is it wild?
Q1 is over, um, which is really interesting when you think about what we've been talking about. It again, good or bad. I said 2025 was going to be the last hard year for real estate, and I think it's thus far proving to be accurate. But if you flip it over and looking for the silver lining, we're getting closer and closer to 26.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for that. So yeah, Q1's almost over. It's crazy.
Really crazy. Let's get right into the show. PCE, what is it and what happened this week?
Yeah, this is the third of three inflation readings, right? We get CPI, PPI, and then PCE at the end of the month. And as I warned, and I'm glad I have receipts, I warned folks that even though CPI and PPI, appeared tame, the inputs out of those two for PCE were likely going to push PCE higher. The experts were saying we were going to go from 2.6 to 2.7. And again, I have receipts. I said, guys, I think it's going to 2.8. And of course, we're talking about PCE core, and it did just that. So nailed it, got another one right. PCE core 2.8, up 0.2 in a single month. The Fed's in a tough spot. Inflation is at best stubborn and at worst accelerating. And then you throw on top of that, tariffs start April 2nd, right? All of this stuff. And again, 2025 is going to be tough. So yeah, it's inflation, PCE core, hotter than expected. We got it right on this channel. PCE headline flat 2.5, but again, sticky. It's been there for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months and it hasn't budged. So generally speaking, PCE was not a good read.
Once again, you nailed it. Great job. Cheers to you. Let's keep going. Let's talk about Fed speak. Also, we are going to talk about tariffs. So folks, hang around. And we're going to talk about recession also and opportunity. But what happened Fed speak? What was your take this week with the Fed?
Wow, there were so many things that the Fed said that were things that we should pay attention to. Probably number one, it was Bostic and one other, I think Musselman, said that we are not going to get to 2% inflation until 2027. 2027.
Wow. Yeah.
So, if that's true, you have to ask yourself, what does that mean for interest rates? What does that mean for the economy? Higher for longer, stagflation. It's a problem, right? If the Fed is truly still fighting this 2% inflation all the way through 25, through 26, that doesn't leave me with any warm fuzzies. The other things that the Fed, speakers are saying is basically they don't know what's going on. I heard an interesting analogy this morning while I was on a run. And, typically speaking, when you're a Fed president, when you're an economist, you're typically looking out the windshield, and it's generally speaking foggy, but you can still see. But I don't know if you guys have ever, driven in really thick, like in the Central Valley, they call it the Thule fog, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And it is so bad you can't even see the tip of your car, right? So what you're supposed to do there is pull over on the side, throw on the hazards and just pray nobody runs into you. So that's what the Fed is saying right now. And again, we go back to something we said in early January, that the first 6 months were going to be chaotic. There was going to be a lot of chess moves. It wasn't going to be very clear. And I think the Fed presidents are like, dude, I don't know what the hell's going on. We got to wait and see what's really happening. And then you have, consumer expectations, and it's just not good. But then you step back and you go, okay, the consumers are saying one thing, and generally it's bad. But when you look at durable goods, when you look at pending home sales, it's like, maybe we should look at what people are doing and not what they're saying. Because again, as I've tried to share with folks, economics, right? Consumer sentiment is one thing, but actual activity is entirely different. So I understand it's a tough job. I'm going to stand by my earlier call that the first 6 months are going to be like, frankly, nothing I've experienced. And I've been studying economics every day for 30 years. But again, to your earlier point, dude, we're halfway through. It's the end of March. So, hopefully the fog starts to lift in April and May and, all of those things. Because generally speaking, I feel pretty good about 26. I also feel pretty good about getting some amazing deals in 25 because some people will just freak out and sell emotionally. So, I like what's ahead of me, but I'm an investor. I can see how a lot of consumers are just freaked out. But yeah, it's tough out there. So that's Fed speak.
Very interesting. Just such a time of uncertainty. I mean, just absolute uncertainty. You've also said too, hey, the first half of the year, chaos, uncertainty, weird, like all of that. And it's all playing out to be true. Very interesting, Michael. Let's keep going. Let's talk about stagflation. I thought you talked about it. I thought you did a great job this week during the daily financial news. Explain to everybody, what is it and what's actually happening right now?
Well, stagflation, first and foremost, is the boogeyman for the Federal Reserve. It's kind of the two things occurring at the same time that they can't deal with. They have to pick one or the other. We have had bouts of stagflation in the early 80s. And if folks have been following this channel for years now, I've warned about this for quite a while. We had the dot plots come out where the Fed basically said GDP going down, unemployment up, inflation up. Jerome Powell said, I think 6 months ago, I don't see the stag or the inflation. Dude, here is stag and here is inflation. It certainly feels like the setup is coming for that. And the Federal Reserve is going to have a choice if we go that way, right? And what might that look like? That might look like unemployment spiking from, I don't know what we are today, call it 4.2, maybe 4.3 to 5.3, 5.5, something north of 5. And also you're going to see GDP fall to sub 1%. It doesn't have to be negative. That's a misunderstanding. It just has to be below trend. And at that point, the stock market goes down 25%, for example. The Federal Reserve is going to have a very tough decision. I actually had this conversation with Taylor, who's a 12-year Wall Street vet, on Monday. And I asked him, so what happens? And he said, without a second of hesitation, the Fed goes to zero interest rates, which frankly, you could probably see in my face, I was shocked by. It is my belief that Jerome Powell will do everything in his powers not to go to zero, including getting fired. Right. He would rather let the next guy get blamed for taking it to zero than getting there. So, I told Taylor that I thought the lowest he would go would be 2%, which would be 250 basis point cut from where we are. So that's 10 cuts. I just can't see zero, but there's a lot of people that do see zero. I'm already seeing people talk about 2026 being the comeback. 2025 is going to be tough. There's one guy I was reading right before we started talking about a deep and dark but short recession. I'll talk more about this on Sunday during the daily financial news because I'm only halfway through the article. But he's basically saying it's going to get deep, dark, and nasty. It's going to force the Fed to get to zero. And then the party starts again in 26. Dude, that's frightening to me.
Interesting.
I mean, that is frightening to me if we go that direction. But yeah, this is. I've been reading economic data for 30 plus years, and the next 90 days, to round out the 6 months of chaos, are frankly dangerous. We could have policy mistakes. We could have the president make mistakes, and we could have a cascading set of events that send us into a deep, dark place. It is not my call. I'm just sitting here acknowledging that, yeah, if the dominoes fall the wrong way, this could get ugly fast. So again, not my call, but I'm reading this article and we'll have more to say on Sunday.
Stay tuned, folks. Sunday morning, 7:30.
Mhm.
We'll all be watching, Michael. You got me a little nervous, man. I was
Yeah.
feeling good about the uncertainty. I was feeling pretty confident and certain during this uncertainty, but the thing you're talking about now, I'm like, okay, what is this? So,
Oh, this is
okay.
new.
Yeah, I didn't think about the dark, deep recession. So, okay, we'll keep going. I'll come back to recession. Let's talk about auto tariffs, man. Tariffs. Is this really going to happen, or is this another head fake? What is your take on it? What was your whole? What's your thoughts on this?
I suspect, and now again, this is 100% guess. My guess is these stick for at least a little while being quarters. I believe that the president sees the auto sector as being gutted by free trade and sees that other countries disproportionately punish US manufacturers with higher tariffs. So I think this is going to stick. I think it's exactly what he's been talking about, i.e., on foreign produced cars, not US made. So it does create that separation, not to mention his desire to get tax deductions on US made cars on interest, which is kind of a double whammy of goodness for US manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
When you step back and you look at the aftermath 24, 48 hours later, Tesla comes out of this good. General Motors gets crushed by this. Other manufacturers like Ferrari just say, screw it, we'll raise prices 10% and just keep rolling.
Yeah.
So all manufacturers will have to have their decisions. I did hear one auto guy talk about kind of wishful thinking. Apparently, a new plant, right? A new manufacturing plant. Best case is 2.5 years out, but more realistically, 4 years out.
Sure.
So we're talking about at the edges. Maybe you add a third shift or these kinds of things. But without question, cars, prices are going to go up. But what I think people miss, and it's important for this channel, is used cars. If this tariff sticks, Ty, I got to tell you, used cars are going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
And if you remember when we had 9.1% inflation, a big chunk of that was used car prices. So we're doing this again. And potentially used car prices are going to go up because of tariffs. So watch out.
Very interesting. What is your take though? What would be the trade-off? What can other countries trade and or deal make with the president to make these tariffs not actually stick?
Well, I think there will be some countries, and maybe I think South Korea is one I read about. If the other entity, and I'm just going to say South Korea, for example, if they drop the tariffs they have on US, bingo bango, this thing's gone.
Okay.
He's looking for fairer trade. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been to a lot of foreign countries and I've talked to a lot of folks, and they have sometimes between 50 and 100% tariffs on foreign vehicles. Not only US, I mean, all foreign, right? German, all of that. So, fairer trade's a good idea. So, one of the things that I think will happen is you'll have some countries, and maybe Germany does some of this, is they drop some of their own protectionism. And, that's the same thing, right? You tariff me, I tariff you. You don't tariff me, I won't tariff you. It gets to the same net result. So I would expect some negotiation probably over the next 30 to 45 days. So I think some of that happens.
Yeah. My take on it again is a lot of this is all the art of the deal, right? This is deal making more than it is. I don't see that we're going to build a bunch of manufacturing plants over the next 3 to 5. I mean, even to get out of the ground. I mean, even just to get something
just to find a site. Yeah, find a site to build
right
next time. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Okay, let's keep going. Government layoffs, very interesting. Is this going to stick? What is your take on it?
Yeah, so I actually had this epiphany the other day while I was reading about this, and I forget, there's 10,000 here and 8,000 there, and these are real numbers. But I actually had a flashback, and you might remember this. Yeah. I think this was in 2022 when Amazon had layoffs and Facebook had layoffs and Google had layoffs. And what happened then? Basically, these companies, these tech companies, overhired, and they had people doing nothing, right? Because they didn't have jobs for them. They were hiring ahead because they were all competing for scarce resources. So at some point they said, let's manage spend. And they fired 10,000, 15,000, all of that. I think the government's going through that same thing. I don't think it's unrealistic to think the government overhired during the pandemic. They have a lot of people doing not a lot of stuff, and it's time to get fit. So, I see a lot of similarities between what big tech did in 2022 and what the federal government is doing in 2025. It's not fun. It's not helpful. It hurts a lot of people. But, having a lot of people hired that do nothing or very little, we're all paying for that. We're all the taxpayers. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting fit. And we did a lot of stupid stuff during the pandemic. We printed $8 trillion and there's just all kinds of stuff sloshing around. We have a lot of businesses like Forever 21 that maybe should have been bankrupt before, but limped along with cheap debt. And now we just got to clean up the system. And like big tech did in 2022, maybe it's time for the federal government to do the same thing. So kind of feels like that's where it's going, but it will be meaningful, right? If they have these reductions all at the same time, I read one report that said it could take unemployment up 0.5% by itself, right? If they were all let go and they filed claims the same week or same month, it could be market moving. I don't think that's how it will go, but certainly could.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Again, I've said this, I think, on the last show, but it feels reminiscent of the 90s when they did a big, during the Clinton administration.
I remember.
They did a big, massive reduction in military bases.
Yeah, San Diego in your neck of the woods got hit hard.
Yeah, I mean, Vallejo, California is wiped out, man. I mean, it's still not, not economically recovering. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So
20 years, 30 years.
Very interesting times. Let's talk about pending home sales. What was your
pending home sales? Again, watch what they do, not what they say. Pending home sales was up 2%. It was expected to be up 0.9. Last month was negative 3.6. So again, up more than expected. I think people are getting used to these rates. I talked to Jonathan at Convoy Home Loans, and rates have been essentially flat for 2 years, right? They've been in a very tight band. He had a quote from somebody, one of his clients, recently that was nearly the same interest rate from 2 years ago. So I think people are getting used to that. When we looked inside actual sales, existing home sales, first-time home buyers are stepping up more and more. Investors are pulling back. Again, it's just that last hard year. But yeah, pending home sales was better than expected.
Very interesting. Something we're going to keep our eye on. Let's talk about Kaufman and Broad, KB Homes, and versus Toll Brothers. What was your take on that?
I think when you look at the earnings statements, which I did for both companies, you really start to get a feel for what's going on in our economy. Now, if you don't know KB Homes or Toll Brothers, I'll give my 30, maybe even 100,000 foot view. Toll Brothers is a luxury home builder. From memory, their median home sales is north of 800 grand. North, their median home sales. KB Homes is a entry level or first time home buyer. Not always, but that's where they play, right? Their median home price is probably in the 300s. I don't know that for sure, but I'm just trying to create a separation, right? Toll Brothers and KB Homes are home builders, but they are not the same. They are not competing for the same buyer. If you're looking at KB Homes, you're not looking at Toll. If you're looking at Toll, you're probably not looking at KB Homes. It's a pretty clear distinction. Why do I bring this up? They both released earnings in the last 2 weeks. Toll Brothers crushed it, knocked it out of the park, more revenue, more profit, blah, 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 blah. KB Homes released a disaster of a quarter, missed on revenue, missed on profits, lower margins, lower expectations, just ugly. So if you step back, what does that really mean? Well, it means we have a bifurcated economy. It means we have a K-shaped economy, whatever you want to call it. We've talked about this for 4 years, but it's still here. The rich, which I would call a Toll Brothers shopper, are doing well. Asset owners are doing well. Non-asset owners, entry level, starting out, aren't. Affordability sucks. Student loan payments restarted. There's like 9 million people late already. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think KB Homes and Toll Brothers, if you really wanted to get a handle on what's going on in the economy, I think those two earnings statements are pretty telling. One part of the economy, maybe the top 20%, still doing great, and everybody else not so much.
Very interesting. Transitions well into consumer confidence. What is your thought about consumer confidence?
This is getting in the danger area, right? Consumer confidence down for the third month in a row, taking out some lows that we had back in 2021. And if we stay on this trend, let's just say it this way: if consumer confidence doesn't bounce in the next 2 months, we'll be in a recession. We're somewhere between 68 and 70% of the economy, consumers. And if you have 5 months, 6 months in a row of consumers being less and less confident, that just means they're going to start to sit on their wallets more and more. Not to mention, we have government, which was the only reason we didn't have a recession the last 2 years, cutting back, which is going to be a net negative or a net draw. Then you have small businesses all kind of confused with these tariffs, not investing, not hiring. If we don't get, and I mean, it's soon, in the next 30 to 60 days, if there's not a noticeable market shift up,
Recession.
Problem
as in recession.
Yeah. And depending on how bad it is, it could be that deep and dark one that I'm reading. I think right now, and again, I'm only halfway through the other article, if we have a recession, it's short and shallow, defined as 2 quarters, maybe nothing worse than -1%. I would call a deep and dark but short recession 2 or 3 quarters, but now you're talking -3, -4, -5% GDP, right? Once you start cresting -2%, you feel that. Everybody feels that. A -1, -0.5, it's a good chance you don't feel that. But you start getting north of -2, -3, everybody will feel that. So that's kind of the difference if you wanted to get a feel for, shallow versus dark.
Very interesting. I have a lot of family in the auto industry in different segments. Mm-hmm. One of them, dealer of high-end, what I would call like very high-end tools to people that are in the service side of it. Things have been slow. Another that is on the sales side of it, a Ford dealership. Sales very, very slow. Another, a service manager, runs a service department for a Asian brand, and also very, very slow, scary slow.
Wow, so scary slow.
But here's the one thing that really I hear about it and go, okay, slow. Okay, I understand. I get it. I am out at a dive bar on Saturday, kind of a hole in the wall, $5-6 beers, not a fancy place, just kind of a working guy's place.
Whatever happened to dollar beers at dive bars? Now dive bars have $5 beers. Damn, inflation sucks.
Well, if you go to the place a couple of doors down, or the place that also like the Applebee's, those beers are like $9, right?
I got you.
Okay, so fast forward. I've been going to this place for 10 years. 2 bachelorette parties on a Saturday night. And I'm like, bachelorette party at this place? Never seen a bachelorette party there in 10 years. And I'm like thinking, was Vegas out of the budget? Was Lake Tahoe out of the budget? Was Napa Valley out of the budget? Like, what happened?
That's exactly
San Francisco, dinner in San Francisco is out of the budget. That to me was very, very telling that they were at the dive bar. I
think you're absolutely right. It's funny. Obviously, I have a place in Vegas and have a growing network out there. And I had a couple of people reach out to me that basically said the strip has been dead the last month.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's not
very,
good.
very wild. Very wild, interesting times. Let me ask you this, though. We talked about something pre-roll. Dream interview. Who is your dream interview? Like, besides me, who's your
Yeah,
dream interview?
I've successfully knocked off a couple, right? We've been doing this channel since 18, so 7 years. We talked to Grant Cardone, we talked to Ken McElroy. We've been knocking some off, but I have 2 left.
Yep.
One probably people know, and one I think will surprise people. The last one, kind of the influencer game that I've yet to interview, is Gary V. I think that would be a lot of fun. I have some
Yeah.
unique questions that I've saved for years, much like I had saved for Grant Cardone. It's like nobody's ever asked you this, or at least nobody I know has asked you this. And then the other one that I think will surprise people is Pitbull.
Yeah.
Pitbull is, I don't know if anybody's seen him, because he's obviously a musician, a rapper, R&B, whatever you want to call that, which I've been to his concert, paid to sit front row. I like his stuff. But more importantly, I've been in events where he's a keynote speaker, and he has an amazing story, and he has an amazing way of telling it. I would love to interview Pitbull. I would fly out to wherever he was. I would see him. I'd pay for a podcast. So that would be an in-person podcast. It's right up there. So I would actually say Pitbull is my number one dream interview guest. So if anybody out there watches this, knows him, or could, put it on his timeline, hey, this guy won really on time, wants to interview you. Let's see if we can't create a groundswell and make that happen.
I love it. Pitbull.
Let's go.
Pitbull. One rental at a time. You're probably, I would have bet he's got to have some real estate in his portfolio for sure, right?
He does. Yeah, he does.
Yeah. I love it. Let's get Pitt on the show, folks. Michael, what a great, let me go back to the recession piece though. If it is deep and dark, talk about opportunity, talk about what do we do? The one rental at a time investor, realtor, loan officer, what do they do from here?
Well, let's play dominoes, or whatever that's called, where you knock stuff over. So, okay,
sure.
Let's just say the dominoes fall the wrong way. Consumer confidence craters, international trade goes to zero, unemployment goes to 6.5% out of nowhere, GDP falls 5%. I'm just trying to paint the picture.
Yep.
Right. So what happens? Well, even Jerome Powell, who I said wouldn't do this, but if it gets deep and dark, we will have interest rates at zero overnight. We will have a federal government that says, damn their torpedoes, and, flushes cash into the system. Because let's be clear, the government knows how to deal with a recession. And if it's deep and dark, they really know. Did you guys not see what happened in 2020 when we shut down the freaking economy and we had like 20% unemployment for like a month or two? They know how to handle a deep and dark recession. So they would break glass, they would pull the ripcord, and there we go. So what happens next? Well, this is just, I don't know if it's sad or fun, but if you're an asset owner like me, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go to my friendly mortgage lenders and say, take all of my mortgages and either A, do a cash out refi and pull out, I don't know, 5, 8, 15, whatever, $1 million. Or maybe I do half and then take rate and term on everything else, lowering the cash flow. And frankly, I'll go shopping. I mean, that's just, it's the playbook is pretty simple. If we have a deep and dark recession, the government will do everything it can to get out of it, get out quickly. They will make short-term choices for long-term gains. What I think is the boogeyman is probably a more interesting question. It's not what do we do if there's a deep and dark recession, because I think that playbook is out there. The question is, what happens if we have stagflation? We have 0% growth. We have rising inflation and rising unemployment. That's the problem. That is the scary choice. Deep, dark, and recession doesn't scare me at all, because it'll be over in 6 or 9 months. As long as you have the reserves and you can get through that, you'll find plenty of opportunity.
Are we in stagflation now?
Ooh, God, it certainly feels like it. It certainly feels like we're headed that way.
limping along, limping along. Okay. So in stagflation, then what is the one rental at a time investor?
Well, again, let's play the dominoes. What has to happen is the Fed has to make a choice. Are they going to be Arthur Burns and choose the economy, meaning cut rates, inflation be damned? Or will there be Paul Volcker and say, I'm going to stuff out inflation, damn the economy? We have a double dip, 2 nasty recessions in a row, a la 81, 82. I don't know that answer. I know plenty of people that think Jerome Powell will go to zero, thus screw inflation, let it run. I don't think he wants to do that. So I think he goes the other way and he goes, damn inflation, I don't want this on my watch, which means double dip recession. No, stagflation is the scary one. A deep, dark recession really doesn't scare me.
Very interesting. Either way, folks, a lot of opportunity during times of uncertainty. When you're out there boldly leading, doing the work, knowing what you're doing as a great operator, you win in this kind of market. Michael, parting words about school community.
Yeah, again, more and more folks need to be joining school. We've cultivated 350 plus amazing folks going in the same direction, networking. We got 6 accountability groups, thousands of dollars in free education. It is the place to be. Don't be shy. Introduce yourself. Ask questions. 67 pennies a day is nothing, but it's just enough to keep away the trolls and the haters. So I love the price point at $20 a month. And frankly, not enough of you have joined. We've got 350 folks. It should be 500. So I'll do whatever I can to make that more and more valuable. So yeah.
You're going to be on Sunday, right?
Not this week. This Sunday, I got to do taxes.
Taxes.
Okay. But next
okay.
Sunday.
Next Sunday
is my day in the chair. Yeah.
Okay. So next Sunday, you'll be
8 a.m.
April the 6th, next.
Yeah, my intention is to go live in the school community twice a month. It'll usually be on Sundays because that's when I have a gap in my schedule. It'll be 8 or 9 on Sundays. But yeah, those will be live. The last one was great. Unfortunately, I forgot to record it, so shame on me. But yeah, if you've ever wanted to ask, and again, I'm an open book. I'll talk about whatever you want. My intention is to lead by giving and make a positive impact. So I hope to see you there.
Love it. We'll see you in the school community. Michael, thank you for all that you do. Have a great weekend.
You too, man. Take care. Thanks for doing this.
Take care.